So, Virgo, stop for a moment, not because something is wrong, because something is right and you keep moving past it too quickly. Because you have a habit specific, recognizable, entirely yours of arriving at something good and immediately looking for the next thing, the next problem to solve, the next area that needs attention, the next version of yourself that isn't quite finished yet. And in that constant forward motion, you keep missing the moment you're actually in. I want to stay here before anything else. Because what I keep finding when I sit with your energy right now isn't a warning or a revelation or a dramatic shift coming. It's something quieter than that, more fundamental. The specific message of someone who has been watching you move through your life with extraordinary capability and extraordinary speed and wants to say, slow down, not permanently, not as an instruction to stop growing or stop reaching or stop the particular forward momentum that is so native to who you are. Just for right now, just enough to feel where you actually are. Because here's what I keep finding: you've been treating your own life like a problem to be solved. And I want to describe what that looks like from the inside, not as criticism, as the specific, honest observation of someone who sees you clearly. You wake up with a list, not always a literal one, the internal version, the ongoing inventory of what's unfinished, what needs attention, what's not yet where it needs to be. And you move through your day with that inventory running quietly in the background, checking things off, noting what remains, assessing the gap between where you are and where you're trying to get to. And the gap is always there. Because Virgo's gap is never fully closed. Not because you fail, because you keep raising the standard, keep moving the destination slightly further. Which means the feeling of arrival, the specific embodied experience of having gotten somewhere, keeps getting deferred. Always almost there, never quite here. Your spirit guide, and I want to use that language without making it abstract, without turning it into something that floats above the actual texture of your life, whatever the source of the deeper knowing that operates in you, the part that has access to something larger than the daily inventory. That part has a message, and the message is uncomfortable in the specific way that true things are uncomfortable when they touch something you've been avoiding. You are allowed to be enough right now, not when the list is finished, not when the gap closes, not when the specific areas of your life that are still developing have developed into their final form. Not when you've processed the last unprocessed thing, or healed the last unhealed thing, or become the complete version of yourself you're always working toward. Now, as you currently are, with everything unfinished, with everything still in process, with all the complexity and contradiction and incompleteness that is simply the honest condition of being a person who is genuinely alive rather than merely appearing to be enough. Hold on, because I want to be precise about what enough means here. Because Virgo will hear that word and immediately run an internal audit. Am I actually enough? Let me examine the evidence. And that's not what I'm pointing at. Enough doesn't mean finished. Doesn't mean there's nothing left to grow. Doesn't mean the standards lower or the work stops or the extraordinary Virgo commitment to doing things properly gets abandoned. It means something more specific. It means the experience of your own life doesn't have to be permanently contingent. Contingent on achieving, on arriving, on becoming, on the future version of yourself that will have it more together than you currently do. Because here's what I keep finding when I sit with this. The future version of you is also going to be contingent, also going to be waiting for the next version, also going to have an inventory running, also going to be treating arrival as something perpetually ahead rather than something available now, unless something changes in the operating system. Not in the circumstances, in how you relate to the circumstances. There's something specific that your guide wants you to understand about this period of your life. The difficulty wasn't random. And I want to be careful here because I don't want to do the thing where difficulty gets wrapped in meaning before the person has fully been allowed to experience it as difficult. You went through something hard. It cost something real. The meaning of it doesn't cancel the cost. But alongside the cost, something was being installed, a specific quality, a knowing that doesn't come from reading or thinking or the intellectual accumulation of understanding, the kind that only comes from having been through something, from having navigated difficulty and found at the end of the navigating that you were still yourself, still intact, still oriented toward the things that matter to you, still capable of care and depth and the specific quality of presence that makes you who you are. That surviving that maintenance of yourself through something that could have changed you in ways you wouldn't have recognized that installed something. A trust, not in circumstances being good, in yourself being adequate to circumstances. Whatever comes, there's an image. A tree in late autumn, most of the leaves gone, the structure of it completely visible in a way it isn't during summer when the fullness of it obscures the architecture. And what's visible, the specific arrangement of branches, the particular way it's grown toward available light, the evidence of previous storms in the slight asymmetries is actually more beautiful than the full summer version. More honest, more itself, not despite the bareness, but because of it. That's where you are. In the specific, slightly uncomfortable, completely authentic nakedness of a season where what remains is the actual structure, where the parts of your life that were dependent on particular conditions have fallen away, where what's left is more truly yours. And the guide's message about this is that the bareness is not something to rush through, is not the unfortunate necessary stage before the new growth, is itself worth inhabiting, worth looking at clearly and recognizing the specific beauty of a structure that has survived enough seasons to be trustworthy. You are the tree, the bare, honest version, and this version is worth something. The more I sit with this, the more I keep finding a specific question your guide keeps returning to. What do you actually need right now? Not what the list requires, not what the next version of yourself demands, not what would be impressive or productive or evidence of continued progress. What do you, the current, imperfect, still in process, entirely worthy you actually need right now? And I want to stay with this because I think Virgo has profound difficulty with this question, not with answering it for other people. You're extraordinarily perceptive about what other people need, can often see it before they see it themselves, respond to it before it's asked. But the same question directed inward produces something that resembles static, a kind of interference, as though the signal is there but something keeps interrupting the reception, something that says quickly, before the real answer surfaces, you need to be more productive. You need to process more efficiently. You need to make progress on the things that are still unfinished. Those aren't needs. Those are the inventory talking. Underneath the inventory, what do you actually need? Wait, I want to try to help answer that. Not definitively, you're the only one with full access to the answer, but I keep getting something specific when I sit with this question in the context of your energy right now. Rest that isn't earned. That's what I keep finding. Not the rest that comes after finishing something. Not the rest that's justified by having worked hard enough to deserve it. The specific, slightly foreign concept of rest as something that doesn't require justification, that exists not as reward but as right. Because here's what I keep observing about Virgo and rest. You rest contingently when the list allows it, when the guilt of it is manageable, when you can frame it as productive as the rest that enables future performance rather than as something valuable in itself. And that contingent rest isn't actually restoring anything because part of you is still running the inventory during it, still half present in the doing even while the body is in the stillness. What your guide keeps pointing at is something more complete than that. The permission to actually stop, not indefinitely, not as an abandonment of everything you're working toward, just for a specific, protected, nobody needs anything from me, period. To be in your own life without the inventory. There's something about relationships that keeps coming through in this guide message. And I want to address it because I think it's specific and important. You give differently than you receive. And I've said versions of this before in other contexts, but what I'm getting now has a particular quality to it, a particular angle of approach. Your guide is pointing at the specific way you've structured your relationships, including the most important ones, including the ones with the people closest to you, as systems in which you are primarily a resource, not consciously, not by anyone's design necessarily, but structurally, because you're so reliable, so attuned, so consistently the person who notices what's needed and responds before it's asked. That role, the one you fill. So naturally, it stopped feeling like a role, has created a dynamic where the flow runs predominantly in one direction, out from you. And your guide's message about this is not that you need to stop being generous. Your generosity is one of the most genuine things about you. It's not performed, it's structural, it's how you love. The message is about receiving, about creating the specific conditions in your existing relationships, in your future ones, where the flow has somewhere to go both ways, where your care gets matched, where your attunement gets returned, where the person who sees everyone else also gets seen. You deserve relationships where being taken care of isn't a foreign concept, not as an occasional gesture, as the ordinary texture of how things work between you. Your guide has something specific to say about fear. And I want to name it because I think it's operating in your life more than you fully acknowledged. You're afraid of hoping too specifically. That's what I keep finding. A kind of general hope is available to you, a broad, non-specific, things will work out orientation that you can maintain without too much vulnerability. But specific hope, the kind with actual content, the kind that names a particular thing you want in a particular form in your actual life. That kind frightens you because specific hopes can be specifically disappointed. And you've been specifically disappointed before in ways that were precise enough and personal enough that the solution felt like making the hopes less specific, more general, less attached to outcomes. And your guide's message about this is direct. The specificity is not the problem. The solution was not the solution. Making yourself hope in lower resolution to protect yourself from disappointment has also made your life smaller than it's supposed to be, has put a ceiling on certain things that are meant to be unceilinged, has produced a version of you that is genuinely magnificent in so many ways, and yet quietly in the interior, slightly smaller than the fullness of what you actually are and want. Let the hope be specific. Let it have content. Let yourself want particular things from particular people in particular forms, and then let yourself move toward them without the guarantee of outcome, just toward the last thing. Your spirit guide has been with you through the storm we've talked about, through the difficult period, through the accumulation of things that tested you, and the maintaining of yourself through the testing. And what they want to communicate, the specific thing that feels most important to transmit right now, isn't about what's coming, isn't a preview of what's ahead or a preparation for some approaching development. It's something simpler than that. They want you to know that you are seen, not by them in the abstract spiritual sense, though that too, by the people in your life who have been watching you navigate something difficult with a grace that required enormous effort to maintain, by the people who understand, even partially, what this period has cost, by the specific individuals in your orbit who have witnessed the version of you that exists when the competent surface meets something it can't immediately solve, and still chose to stay, still chose you. You are more visible than you think, more received than you feel, more arrived than the inventory allows you to register. And the message, the one your guide has been trying to get through the noise of your own analytical process, through the inventory, through the contingent self-assessment, is that you can put the measuring stick down, not forever, for right now, for this specific moment in your life, where the most important thing is not further progress or development or becoming, but being, simply, quietly, without apology or justification or the performance of earning it, being here in your own life as you actually are. That's enough. It has always been enough. Your guide has been trying to tell you that for a while. If something in this touched something true, if a moment arrived somewhere quiet in you that needed to be reached, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me what resonated, even just a few words. It means more than you know.